Hey there, everyone. Jake Sirota here, and welcome back to this week's episode of Authority Builders Ranking Secrets. Today, we're digging into a topic that a lot of SEOs are guessing about, but not actually testing, and that's the hidden signals behind AI citations, and why some brands are getting mentioned in tools like ChatGPT, Perplexity, Gemini, and Claude. So if you're trying to understand what gets your brand cited in these AI answers, well, this episode is for you. Make sure to hit like and subscribe so you can stay tuned for everything that we're doing here at Authority Builders. Now let's jump into it. So first, let's go ahead and talk a little bit about why this matters, especially right now. The reality of the fact is that AI models are not just scraping top 10 results anymore. They're pulling from a mix of entity signals from recent content, high authority sources, structured data, things that they've been trained on. And consistent signals that show that you are a trusted answer matter more now than ever. So over the last few weeks, we've been seeing something interesting, and that's brands with rankings are getting cited in AI answers because their signals look cleaner and more reliable than some big players. Not necessarily because they're better in their industry at what they do, but because it's easy for models to actually parse. And with AI overviews being added to more search queries day and day, then it's super important to make sure that you're standing out, not only in those AI overviews, but also in conversations with chatbots like Perplexity and ChatGPT. Basically, getting cited and mentioned in AI is the new position 0, or like getting a featured snippet back a couple years ago. So the first key insight that you need to keep in mind for today's episode is understanding that models are looking for consistent, conflict-free information. So if your brand has data all across your website, like your pricing information and your team members, and that information is different on different pages of your website, or it doesn't match up with third-party sources like review websites or your social media accounts, well, that's going to create some hesitation in the model's eyes. If your pricing is different on your homepage than your service page, if your about page says one thing, but your LinkedIn says another, or if your product descriptions are outdated, for example, they are wanting to reward the cleanest and quickest thing for them to understand. Keep in mind that the biggest cost for these companies is actually understanding and parsing data. So the easiest you can make it for them, the more then you're going to be cited as a reliable source. So key insight number 2 is to remember that brands with strong real-world authority get elevated. This is not black hat SEO early 2000s where anyone can just spin up a website and get on the first page of Google. Things are different, and you need signs that prove you're a legitimate business with expertise. Things like high-value editorial mentions, interviews or quotes, mentions on like government websites or studies, and maybe even data-backed content that's coming from your website. So here's a scenario that you could test to really prove this. So take a brand that ranks decently but has no public expertise signals. The next thing that you're going to want to do is compare it to a smaller brand that publishes original case studies, original materials, and has tons of third-party reviews. Well, go into AI models like ChatGPT or Perplexity and ask what the best player in that industry is. The results might surprise you. So you'll notice that the second brand starts showing up even if they're not ranking number 1. That's because these AI models are looking at those third-party resources and brand mentions all across the web. And if you're just ranking number 1 on Google and not being talked about elsewhere, well, you're not going to be found in AI answers. Okay, so next, let's go ahead and talk about some of the biggest mistakes that people are running into whenever they're trying to optimize their website to get cited in AI answers. The big one is that people think that you can trick AI the same way that you would be able to trick search engines. And while you can optimize your website to be found better, you can't really trick them like you can with search engines. If your site is thin, outdated, or generic, AI models are going to ignore you, even if Google still tolerates you and ranks you in traditional search. So models can identify surface-level content quality pretty quickly. Look for data, explanations, real examples, and those EEAT signals that Google is always talking about. Those things are still important whenever you're getting cited in AI answers. So the fix is simple. Stop posting refurbished content like 10 reasons why whatever in fluff articles. Of course, you still want to cover those topics, but make sure that you're adding real value with real case studies that are going to get you cited as the expert in your field. So here's the thing. We have to remember that AI is trying to replicate human connection or human citations. So AI citations are going to work in the same way. Word of mouth marketing is still the most powerful form of marketing when it comes to human interaction. Think about getting AI to cite you like word of mouth marketing with AI. Quick subtle plug time, but this is exactly why our digital PR services really help move the needle whenever you're trying to get your business found in AI search. When you earn placements on these high authoritative editorial publications with real insight, these AI models treat those like high confidence signals way more than Google even does. They map it as this is a trustworthy source. And so you're not just building links for rankings anymore, but you're building the kinds of signals that models use to decide who is actually getting cited as the expert. So when your brand appears in these trusted outlets, your odds of being cited in AI goes way up. It's not hype, it's proven, it's how these systems actually work. So we covered quite a few actionable tips that you can implement in your strategy if you're trying to focus on getting your brand found in AI citations rather than your traditional strategy of working on your SEO rankings. But let's do a quick recap for this week's part of 60 Seconds in SEO. All right, so we covered quite a few actionable things that you can implement into your content and brand building strategy to make sure that you're focused on getting found in AI answers. But for this week's episode of 60 Seconds in SEO, let's quickly recap what we covered today already. The first thing to remember is that clean, consistent, and constant brand data across all platforms like your social media, your Google business profile, and your website needs to be constantly looked at, needs to be constantly updated. That stuff is more important now more than ever. Another thing to keep in mind is that these real expertise signals drive AI citations. So not only editorial placements that you get from things like digital PR, but also think about good, rich reviews on third-party websites and just traditional backlinks in all kinds of forms. That's how Google and AI models understand that you're a real business. So also remember that models favor brand relevance from credible third-party sources, and that depth wins whenever you're trying to be found and be cited for informational queries. Okay, so let's bring it all together for this week's episode of Ranking Secrets with Authority Builders. The main takeaway is this, and that's that AI citations aren't random. They follow patterns, and they're similar patterns of how we found websites to get ranked traditionally in search engines. But if you understand those patterns, you can start to earn visibility where it matters for your business, which in 2025 and going into 2026 is pretty much everywhere. We have to think about social media. We have to think about Google Business Profile. We have to be everywhere so that these AI models trust us and know that we are the authority in our industry. So drop a comment. Let me know what strategy you're going to be putting part of your either link building or content strategy, or maybe something a little bit more technical. Let's make a discussion in the comments, and make sure to like and subscribe so you can stay tuned to everything we're doing here at Authority Builders. Cheers.